Hi, guys. Welcome back to Love Ariel, a podcast where we explore our dynamic lives. Thank you for tuning back in today. I am excited about this episode because I had a really lovely day yesterday where I had a shoot with an amazing photographer, amazing makeup artist, and just amazing human beings. And that truly is just one of the many blessings that comes with being a creative on set, working with a lot of different people all the time. And sometimes it is hard meeting new people every day and new personalities, different ways of communicating. Sometimes it can be hard to connect. But yesterday was just the most perfect and honestly felt divinely planned because we were all able to really show up as our authentic selves and just connect, have fun, create just with an excitement and an energy that doesn't feel depleting. Rather, it's energizing because you're inspired by the people that you're around, inspired by them as who they are. And it was just so great to be able to praise people and their gifts and their talents and to see all of them. And during our many conversations, the conversations were just flowing. We brought up like accomplishment identity and imposter syndrome, which I feel like is a rampant disease within the industry, within the entertainment industry, and as a whole, I feel like just in the world in general. But in my community, where I see it the most day to day with the people that I'm interacting with, it's with artists and creatives and people who are really trying to make it and really live a successful life within this industry. And being a part of that community has been interesting. I didn't really understand or really notice what accomplishment identity was until literally maybe last month, where I noticed how it affected my life and how I abided by those rules of the rat race and looking for external validation and collecting accomplishments as a way to prove my worth when it's an inherent worth that we all hold. All of us are born with divine love and worthiness. Just for the simple fact that we are breathing, we are here right now in these human bodies with souls. We live a soulful life. And I think that the external noise really complicates things sometimes because we have to live a human life, so we have to be practical. And when we turn on our practical minds, sometimes the mind just never shuts off and it's on 24/7, and we start identifying with our mind. And I talked about this in a few episodes back, like when I'm back, like how I'm feeling episode. I talked about how I was really shedding a lot of these self-limiting ideas, a lot of these false sense of self ideas, and just trying to remove myself from identities I felt so connected to that ultimately erased the fullness of who we are as human beings, the fullness of who I was as a human being or who I am as a human being. I think it's amazing to have ambition, to have motivation, to have goals, and to have dreams. And all of those things I think sometimes we confuse with having to really chase, to really have to force control and accomplish a lot before we get to that thing. And I think our ambition and our motivation, our work ethic, our dreams and our goals are something that live within us every single day. It is not something that is so far-fetched. It's not something that we have to chase and to prove ourselves for. I truly do think it lives inside of us, and that is the very dream that we are living day to day. Instead of thinking, oh, once I accomplish this, once I get this car, once I get this apartment, once I make this much once I make this much money, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be well known. I'm going to be good at my craft. And I think that obviously the beauty is in the journey, the beauty is in the day to day, and it's how that dream lives inside of you, how you express that dream every day, your love and your passion for the life that you're already living within that realm of possibility is, divinely yours. And I feel that allows sort of a flow between who you are and, the best version of yourself to peek through various portals in your life. And I find that when we attach ourselves to accomplishments, when we live in this realm of never enough, then everything feels so serious. Everything feels so serious. Even on set yesterday, the makeup artist, she was like, we act like everything is so serious, especially when it comes to imposter syndrome. Like, it's never that serious. And I believe that fully. We take our accomplishments so seriously. We take our careers and our jobs so seriously, which I agree. I mean, they are important things in our lives and we prioritize them, but they are not more serious than the love that you have for yourself. They are not more important than, a gentle, loving life that is clear and intentional. I could really see myself putting accomplishments before the wellness of my life and the wellness of other lives and connecting with other people. I would, make sure that I was always available for work, never going to go visit my friends, just making sure that that came first. And, that's how I make money. That's my livelihood. That's how I sustain and afford this life. But there needs to be a balance and a remembrance that accomplishments, that your work, your career is not everything. And there's so much more to us that makes us who we are. There is so much more to me than just modeling and work and whatever makes me money, the accomplishments that I feel like are going to allow me to succeed in this life, whatever that means for us. And releasing that, really delving into what makes you who you are. You are divine and you are divinely free of all those things, allows you to balance your life out a little bit better and being just a more well-rounded person, because that's who you truly are. And I feel like a lot of the anxiety that we feel, this stress and need to chase the bag and to really make it and be accomplished, comes from a place of seeking external validation. And that is a tiring, tiring game that none of us are truly ever going to win if we don't feel the inherent divine value within us. There is nothing any of us need to do in order to be worthy. It's almost like a blue check mark, but in reality, we are seeking that validation to feel worthy. We are seeking that validation and that badge of like, this person's got it. This person is reliable. This person is good at what they do. And that will always feed this part of us that wants to people please, that wants to be liked by everybody, that will diminish the parts of you that make you different from others, which inherently is your gift and your unique beauty. And I think that's just such a sad place to be, because I would just be in this cycle of, okay, I'm accomplishing a lot, I'm making money, and now I feel freedom. This is what freedom is. But then once that's taken away from you, you feel like you're in the shackles of society, that you need to go back out into the world and just like beg for validation and beg for some external value. And then you forget your inherent value, because you're so distracted by this addiction to something that you feel like you can count on. I feel like accomplishment identity and really identifying with your accomplishments feels like something stable. It feels like stability. It feels safe. And that's because it can be like quantified, and you can count on your finger how many amazing jobs you've done and who you've worked for and the money you've made. And we begin to distrust the value in our lives that we can't show off, that we can't share pictures of, that we can't tell people about because they're a little bit more abstract. The pride that you have for yourself and the love that you have for your life and the people around you and the nuances of your relationships that really heighten your human experience is harder to almost share and get validation from because you think people don't care about that. But it really, I believe, there is such a fluid nature of our dynamic lives from day to day. And when we over-identify with one part of our lives, we are really doing a disservice to the lives that we are living that are just so spectacular, so magical. There's no room for magic if you're constantly chasing and constantly begging and constantly seeking accomplishments that honestly maybe even aren't even meant for you. You know, like sometimes in life, I feel like things just happen the way that they're supposed to unfold, in the way that you're supposed to learn lessons from. And there's a lot of friction and a lot of discomfort and frustration when we are forcing things that are just not meant to happen. And when we release a little bit of control and surrender to the beauty and the magic that is life, a lot of things will come into our lives that feel divinely planned. When we allow room to just breathe, you know, we don't have to really work at breathing. I mean, there is breath work and it is helpful, but our day to day, you know, life is just going to flow. You're going to breathe through the moment. You're going to breathe through it. And to really trust that inherent mechanism within us that our bodies will heal ourselves. Our bodies are smarter than we give it credit for because we so overly identify with our minds. There's not really anything that we have to solve. There are no problems that truly exist because life will still be fluid and we aren't going to just drop dead one day. And, you know, death is coming. Death will always be there. And so why not enjoy this moment right now to the fullest without over-identifying ourselves with identities that diminish the fluidity and the fullness of our lives. Accomplishment identity serves no one. It serves no one. And I think that's really, for me, important to remember because it's so easy to get stuck in that rat race of chasing and never fully getting there, and really finding parts of your lives that fulfill you in ways that accomplishments could never. Because for as long as we are identifying with accomplishments and, you know, success, it's always going to be transactional. Our worthiness and our inherent value will always be transactional, and it will never be free of those shackles. And when I realized this about myself and in my life and noticing that about the people around me, I was like, during that time, getting very annoyed and just like irritated. I was getting very irritated by like the social norm of everything feeling so serious. Everyone is so serious on social media. Everyone is so serious about what they're doing that their career is who they are. I am a creative director and that is who I am. And because I am so identified with that, for example, I don't feel my inherent value. I don't feel the divine within me because I'm just so attached to that and the success of what it means to be a creative director. Same thing goes for, you know, modeling and actor and all these things. I feel like in my like community, we are all so heavily identified with our careers and, you know, our hobbies, our loves, and our passions. But when we over-identify with these things, it leaves no room for the rest of our lives, and it becomes so serious when really it's just not that deep. it is something that we love. And if we remember the reasons why we got into this, career, the reason why we pursue this passion, the true like innocence, beauty, and love that goes into our craft, we will be able to see the full spectrum of who we are, because these careers and these passions, these hobbies, they weren't formed in a vacuum. It didn't just happen one day and pop into your mind and you like began to pursue that with like amazing ambition, but it was inspired by so many aspects of our lives. They have been inspired by our hearts and what we've seen in the world that gives us a vision to create. They are inspired by our history and our past and our lineages. It's inspired by the more beautiful world that we know is possible. It's inspired by, hope and love and divine connection. It was all part of a story, and remembering that story, remembering the humanity behind that and the people that we're working with, is so important. And I was getting so irritated because everything felt so freaking serious. But now that I've taken a step back myself and really analyzed, maybe not analyzed, but observed that part of myself that really heavily identified with my accomplishments, I've been able to really have grace for that hunger within my culture and within my society and within my industry, because it is so real. It is so real. It's so visceral. And it is the source of a lot of us, competing. And sometimes that competition is nasty and it is nothing I want to be a part of. And I really would love to see more compassion between all of us within this, industry, because there is room for everybody and everybody's gift is so dynamic. One photographer is completely different from the next, and there's no reason why anyone needs to shoot the same, to be the same, to have the same vision, because what makes you unique is the fact that you have your own perspective on life, that your perspective is so beautiful and so divine because it is yours and no one else has that idea written with your name all over it. Yes, there are similarities between us all. Yes, at the end of the day, we are all connected, and there's portal of ideas that are attractive to many of us. But really honing in on your uniqueness, what makes you different, instead of faulting that, instead of trying to erase that from who you are, I think it is so beautiful to really hold on to that, to love that, and to cherish that, and then share it. I have definitely had my moments within my modeling career where I've tried to emulate other people, where I've tried to really harness beautiful energies that I've witnessed in others, and I wanted it for myself. And in those moments, you find yourself so lost, you're confused, and you don't know where your North Star is. And to really take a step back and to be aware, I feel like all of this comes from like an awareness of the decisions and the choices that we are making that self-abandon, that make us go to war with ourselves, when that is not the natural route, and it's not something that I feel like will get us to where we are for that feeling that we're chasing. We over-identify with accomplishments because we are chasing this feeling, we are chasing this thing that we think that we have to work for. And I feel like that feeling is just a euphoria, a proudness, a divine knowing and loving energy that will just pulse inside of ourselves, and that is available to us every single day. And it doesn't come from getting the right job and working with the right client. It comes from really understanding the divine that you are. I really found myself during these times never being satisfied, just never being satisfied. My taste never being satiated, never being content, because there was always something else. If you belong to accomplishment identity, like it owns you, you are always going to be chasing something. You're never going to be satisfied. And that is just such an uncomfortable place to be in. And I really would be so frustrated with myself because I'm like, why am I never satisfied? Why can't I just be content? Like, I don't want to be hungry all the time. And it's super interesting because now that I think about that and say that, when I went to Thailand in February with my family, our family Naga woman, she, did readings for us and she talked a lot about me. And she was like, why are you so hungry all the time? You are so hungry. And to me, I thought about food because I am always hungry and I'm always eating. But I feel like I am also very hungry for more. I'm hungry for more, 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 more. I'm hungry for more success. I'm hungry for, to be known. I'm hungry to be loved by people. I'm hungry for desire. And that is a scary place to be in because nothing could actually curb that hunger other than stillness, slowness, and a knowing, an inner knowing of divine love and inherent value. I was searching for the key to my life, the key to freedom when that was just internal. It was never going to be an external treasure hunt. It's never going to be, I need to find the treasure box, like the box of gold, the key to life, and then it's going to be everything. And I feel like I knew that. I knew it wasn't going to be a treasure hunt. And I feel like so many of my friends, like they know it's not a treasure hunt, but yet we are still seeking treasure. When the treasure is in our hearts, the treasure is in our soul, the treasure is in this human body that allows us to live this human experience, and really appreciating that, appreciating what's available to us, what is available to us without having to work and chase and accomplish success. What is available to us is divinely created, is loving, is perfect. May be a journey to finding that, may be a journey of remembering, but it's available, and it's nothing that you have to prove yourself for, and it's nothing that won't be impossible to have, because you already have it. And it's just going to be a matter of remembering and noticing and realizing. That's really all it was for me, was just realizing. And it always reminds me of Kylie Jenner when she was like, it's the year of realizing things. Because seriously, I feel like every year is the year of realizing things. But it's just all about remembering. And I remember when I listened to a podcast, I think it was maybe 3 years ago, and it was the Heal Thyself podcast. I love that podcast with Dr. Christian Gonzalez. He's amazing and really opened my heart and my eyes to a different way of living and a more holistic way of living, a more intentional way of living. Anyways, during one of his podcast episodes, he talked about how life is not about learning, it's about remembering. And I have always cherished that because when I first heard it, I didn't actually understand what he was saying. I was kind of confused. I was like, remembering? I don't understand. I feel like my life has just been learning. But when you have that feeling, when you learn something where it puts words to feelings, that is a remembering. It's a remembering because it is not far from you. It is not detached from you. It is a part of you. It's a part of your knowing. You know that as truth. And I feel like the things that are important in life, aren't going to be what we learn in textbooks. It's not what we're going to be learning about facts that we collect. It's going to be a remembering of knowledge and of wisdom that is going to carry us through our abundant lives. I think that is what the real treasure is. It's the realizations, it's the remembering, it's the wisdom, it's the love. Self-limiting beliefs and identities will never have a place in the fullness of who we are. And I think these last 2 months for me has been a major time of shedding that, a major time of shedding the shame, a major time of shedding shame. I feel like I felt so much shame for not chasing, for not being the one who's so ambitiously out there in the world collecting external validation. Like, I don't want that to be me. It is not natural to I am. It is exhausting. It is so tiring and it kills the spirit. Our soul purpose and our dharma and our gifts are inherent. And that is the magic that is life, you know? And I think this ties into imposter syndrome because it's that feeling that we're not there yet. It's that feeling of we don't deserve this. It's that feeling of I haven't proven myself enough. I am undeserving. And when we don't know our inherent value, of course we're going to feel undeserving. Of course we're going to over-identify with external validation. Of course, that makes so much sense. And so I feel like in order for us to feel release from imposter syndrome, because I've felt imposter syndrome heavy, you know, throughout my career and even with this podcast starting it, getting over the hurdle of imposter syndrome was one of the hardest things ever. And that was the one thing I had to jump over, to tackle, to hug, you know. Honestly, yeah, not even jump over and tackle. I don't like those words. I really had to hug the part of me that felt like an imposter. Like, I love you. I love you, baby girl. Like, we are one and the same. And that part of me, that part of us, is a part of us that needs extra loving, extra gentleness, extra care. It's the part of us that are triggered by, you know, various things in our life that make us feel less than. And really loving that wounded part of ourselves, loving the person that feels like an imposter and telling them you are worthy because you're breathing on this earth, in this body, with this heart, in this magical portal that allowed you to manifest in this world. Really loving that part of ourselves, that's something I really had to do when walking into this new realm of podcasting. Even within modeling, I've really had to love the part of me that didn't feel worthy, that didn't feel good enough, that felt ugly, that felt untalented. I really had to love that person, just be like, I see you. I see you because we are one and the same. And I think this discomfort comes when we separate ourselves from the wounded parts of ourselves. We are so ashamed of the wounded parts of ourselves. We are ashamed of our shadow side, and we only want to accept that which is light, that which is airy and fairy and ethereal, you know? And I just don't agree with only identifying with one parts of ourselves, because we are dynamic, we are dualistic, there is a fluidity to who we are. And loving your shame and really allowing that to release the hurt that it carries in our hearts and in our bodies and in our minds allows for a more grounded and wholesome, like, we are oneness with yourself and with others. You have this sort of empathy that you get to share. And I think that is where, you know, the shackles really release. The shackles that I put on myself, I had to love them off. I had to be gentle and courageous. You know, there's this really gentle courageousness that will help you release yourself from these self-limiting beliefs. And I think it's because, you know, our ego holds on so tightly to these things because we feel like if we don't have them, we're going to die. That if we don't have that, then we don't exist, period. That we just dissolve. And I think we can find comfort in the dissolving of those things, you know, dissolving actually feels really good. And I was thinking about this the other day when I was in a sound bath, and I was just laying there and I was thinking, why does this feel so good? Why does this feel so good? And for me, the sensations of sound moving through my ear, somehow being inside of who I am, something that feels so material, something that feels so sturdy, something that feels impenetrable. How is sound able to flood through me like I'm in a bath? Like the water is flooding into my body, out of my body, and I'm just in this flow state. That feels like dissolving into. I felt like I was dissolving into sound, into sensation, into life. And I went skydiving on like my 20th birthday. I think it was my 20th birthday or my 19th birthday. My best friend took me skydiving. And that, I was addicted to that feeling because it felt like I was dissolving into air. I was dissolving into the earth, that gravity was doing its work. And for a minute, I was just floating in the air. I was falling through the air. And that feeling of weightlessness, that feeling of dissolving into is so freeing, like flying like a bird. That sounds so free because there's such a seriousness to our human lives, this groundedness, this weight of our bodies, the weight of the things that we love, the weight of our hearts feels very heavy sometimes. And a lot of that weight comes from over-identifying with self-limiting beliefs. And when we release that and we dissolve into that, when we dissolve all of it away, there's this lightness to us. This lightness that is not, just the light parts of ourselves, but the loving of the darkness too. It's the loving of the fullness that allows us to dissolve into who we are. And I truly believe that in order to feel that, in order to really have that understanding, there needs to be a realization, there needs to be an understanding and a remembering, there needs to be a realization of the choices that we are making day to day that maybe are leaving us in a victim mindset, that things are just happening to us. And that is untrue. We are choosing our life every day of how we tackle, decisions, how we make choices, how we go about our lives. And all I want for all of us and, the people that I come into contact every day is to really release the weight. I really want us to release the weight because it's not that serious. And I know sometimes when I feel serious and I feel down and I'm really hard on myself and I'm just stuck in this bubble of anxiety, I'm so grateful that I have a partner that really helps me come out of it. And it's because I've done the same for him that we're able to do that for each other. And it's like this endless cycle of giving, that replenishes all of us because we're not always going to be, peaceful, dissolved, and whatever. We all have our journeys and we all have our lessons in life that propel us forward. And so it's not always going to be, the up and up. But I would always tell my partner, like, we're just beans. We are just silly beans. We are just like flesh with like fat and blood and bones. And to me, that is just so silly. I'm like, we are just beans. We are just vegetables. We are just whatever. We're just like silly little things. Let's dance it out. Let's jump it out. And just jumping around, just like being crazy and remembering that you're just like a sack of like things is so fun sometimes. And just coming back to that joy, just coming back to that play, coming back to the silliness and the weightlessness of life sometimes is so important because, there is this dualistic nature of who we are. There's this weightlessness of our heart and our soul. Our soul really wants to transcend, but there is this such weightiness, this heaviness that it is to be a human being on this Earth where gravity exists. So just jumping around and letting the playfulness come play into the dynamic and dualistic parts of our lives. And remember, it's just not that deep. And if you're ever going through a time, if it's ever tough, call onto the people around you, call onto your loved ones, your support systems, because they are there to love you as you are there to love them. I am so hopeful because I feel like I've been hearing these conversations a lot recently. Everyone really feels this in their heart that there needs to be a release of these identities that we are so deeply identifying with, and the imposter syndromes that plague many of us. There's no place for that in our lives, and I'm so hopeful and so thankful to have these conversations with people. Like, being on set yesterday was just so loving to be able to talk about these things. And I just love you guys. I love every single one of you. I've had so many amazing, responses and comments recently. I got my first YouTube comment, okay, and I freaked out. And I just created a YouTube channel for Love Ariel to put the podcast on there. And I got a comment that somebody said they meditated to my episode, and that is just so special. And I am so thankful that these conversations, these stories that me sharing can help a little bit, and that we can be there for each other, because so many people in my life have poured into me and given me so much wisdom and so much love. And I just can't, share my gratitude enough, because it has helped me so much in life. And I want to continue to give back and to be of service in any way that I can. So, yeah, I hope that all of you guys have an amazing week, that you remember the love that is inherently yours, that you are inherently worthy and divine. Relax into that and surrender to that knowing. I love you all so very much.